Okay, what's going on, everybody? This is a market recap for the DOTS bias trading indicator. Today is Tuesday, July 29th, the day before FOMC. Non-farm is at the end of the week. Yesterday, Monday, was a trash can price action day. Today was pretty good. Today was a solid day. So I'm going to take you through three setups. One, the one that I took to be one and done. I took a setup that I'm not going to talk about, and then I'm going to talk about two dots setups that sync up with NQ stats. So this is the day. Basically, the first setup was a one dot entry function where you look for the first column of all green dots after the market opens, and then you are buying the close of the 1 minute candle that lines up with the first column of all green dots. So this was the setup. At 9:33, we get a close of the 1 minute candle, so you're buying the open of the next candle, and the ATR at the time I think was about 17 points, so which is down here. So risking 19 to make 18-ish. So this setup worked very, very quickly. I said I wouldn't talk about the trade. The other trade I took, but basically I sold this inversion right here, this inversion fair value gap, but this is neither here nor there for this video. So when we closed here, we had news at 10 o'clock, but I was out taking these lows. So I was done pretty early. So let me take you through pairing the DOTS bias indicator with NQ stats, primarily initial bounce breaks and something called the noon curve. So essentially what the initial bounce break is, you take the high and the low, or the low and the high of the first hour of trade, so 9:30 to 10:30. So this is the 50% line. The initial bounce breaks, so either the low or the high, 83% of the time before 12 noon. So going further, if at 10:30 we are in the lower half of the range, the low of the initial bounce, the first hour will get broken 74% of the time, and if it's in the upper, it'll be 81% of the time. So they're both higher probabilities than not. So essentially, once 10:30 closes, given these NQ stats, the initial balance stats, I am looking for a short to trade to this low. And essentially, what I would have been, I was done for the day, but what I would have been looking for is just very simply a swing high to the low, just taking a fib. I would want to look to see if this area holds the 50 to 61.8%, and I want to see what the dots are doing. So this is all good. So the dots are all red, are all bearish. The 50 to 61.8% lines we're holding. You can see we got a little shakeout here, and then dots turn all bearish, and then we sell off to the initial balance. So there's several ways you could have entered this. Selling a 50% with whatever the ATR was, or if you want to be more conservative, risking this high. Once you saw the 50 to 61% line hold, there was an inversion once we had this little, I guess, Judas move higher, this shakeout higher, selling this close of the imbalance, and then the dots. There's a one dot entry function that was the same function essentially to take. So with the dots, you want to line confluences up in your favor. So we had the probabilities of the initial balance. We had red dots. We had fibs holding under VWAP. There's a lot to support a short thesis to these lows. And then going further, there's something called the noon curve, which basically you take an 8-hour trading day and you split it in half from 8 a.m. to 12 noon, from noon to 4 p.m. 74% of the time, the lows on the lows and the highs and the lows will be on opposite sides of the noon curve. So we had a high here, a low here. So we would be anticipating these lows before noon to be taken as the noon curve. So you come into the afternoon. I don't like to trade during lunch. And so right here, we had a 1 dot entry function, potential 1 dot entry function, short here, 90, so call it 28 points. So what I'm looking for mainly is you don't necessarily have to achieve all of this movement to the morning low, or whatever it is. I want a high probability trade in the direction. So the noon curves suggest these lows will get taken. Red dots, I'm looking bearish. I'm not looking longs at all whatsoever. And then you can see we had a 50%, same as the earlier. 50% holding, 61.8 holding. We have this little Judas. We get a 1 dot entry function here, 1252 in 1250 macro. And you can see this area kind of chopped and then went down to the noon curve. So that is how I use the dots bias indicator as a confluence with NQ stats, primarily initial balance and the noon curve. So hope that helps. See you tomorrow. 7-day free trial, link in the bio if you want to use the dots bias indicator. Cheers.